Hello and welcome to the WHO Bulletin. I am going to put some music on in the background. Yeah. Welcome to the stream, everyone. How's everyone doing? How is everyone doing? Don't think there's any desktop audio playing. That's interesting. How is everyone? I haven't got a snack today. I hate to say it. I haven't got a snack today. I'm trying to be professional, so I haven't actually got one. I'll say a quick hello to everyone in the chat. Let's have a gander. Cyber Nova DW. First as always, the Kiwi Kingdom welcome. Alternate 13th. Gary Brooks. George Kopp. Dr. Master, of course. And that's all we have for now. But yes, if you're new and you're or just watching, feel free to say hello. And I'll say hello back. Today is going to be a very interesting episode. We're getting closer and closer to the 60th anniversary specials. So I feel like we've got a lot to talk about. And yeah, Cyber Nova's birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday for tomorrow. I don't know if the music's dead quiet. It might be. All the music being played is from the wonderful YouTuber and musician Peter Miles, who you can find on YouTube. I've worked with him many times, and he's brilliant. So any background music that you may or may not hear, depending on the volume, is from him. So there you go. But yes, welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of interesting stuff. We got our first taste of the brand new era. And we've got the first episode in over a year for Doctor Who coming out this Saturday, which means this is the last episode of the Who Bulletin before we start doing reviews, which is going to be exciting. I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet in terms of reviews. I know that next week will not be live on Tuesday. We'll be live on Wednesday. I'm away from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So Wednesday night will be the next week's live stream, where of course we'll be talking all about the Star Beast. But today is sort of our first mini review and kind of discussion, because there's been a hell of a week for Doctor Who fans in terms of not just content but also discussions. There's been a lot of important discussions going on, and a lot of ones that personally I wouldn't have anticipated, but have come up and are being talked about, and I think it's great that they're being talked about. So a lot of them originated from Destination SKARO. Now, I have been very kind of not like quiet on how I feel about this sketch, but I just haven't really spoken about it much. I was kind of busy throughout the weekend, so I haven't really had much of a chance to, kind of think about it and say, no, not the last Who Bulletin ever. The last Who Bulletin before we do reviews, like the last normal one that isn't just like about anything. So yeah, the Who Bulletin up to this point has just been talking about the latest news and theories, whereas from next week, we'll actually be doing full, proper reviews of each of these episodes, so that'll be very exciting. Yeah, so today will be a very interesting one. Obviously on here, we're going to be talking about Destination SKARO, Doctor Who Unleashed, the behind-the-scenes show, and any previews we've got for the Star Beast for this Saturday. And then after that, we'll be going live on Twitch and playing something I never thought I'd get my hands on and the opportunity to play, but I have, and it's very exciting, and that is Destiny of the Doctors, the 90s CD-ROM game, which is just so exciting. So we'll be playing that on Twitch after this live stream from about 8 o'clock-ish, so there'll be links, I'll be talking about it, but if you want to go ahead and drop me a follow on Twitch anyway, I'll put a link in the chat, because that's what we're going to be doing after, celebrating Doctor Who's 60th anniversary this month on Twitch by playing Doctor Who games. And we're running out, honestly, of games that I haven't yet played. Welcome, Adam Hassel, Jack Turner Productions, Stephen Gresley. Very negative things to say about Russell T Davies' idea of permanently changing the look of Davros. I'm a disabled person and I feel patronised by it. That's completely valid and an absolute complete fair point. And we'll get into this discussion, because I have a very, specific... I'll just say it now. My viewpoint on this whole discussion is that, as someone who is able-bodied, I don't have a stake in the battle at all. I don't have anything to contribute to this conversation. Like, I don't mind it one way, I don't mind it another. I can see why it would be considered offensive and something to sort of change. But I can also see as well the fact that it's an iconic character and people will get upset over that. But as someone who isn't disabled myself, I can't comment on those issues. It's not for me to go, yeah, because I'm not personally offended by any of that, but I can understand why people would be, and why some people would also feel patronised by it. So I think it's a completely even split by that conversation of changing the design of Davros. But yeah, this is the sort of starting point. So we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about the actual sketch itself. So something that was brought up quite early on with advertising this was that this wasn't going to be a sketch, this wasn't going to be a skit, but actually ends up it was a skit. But for the most part, I'll kind of give my opinions going through it. Like, it is a mini-sode. It's a Children in Need Mini-sode. As far as personally I'm concerned, if I'm having to rank them, probably be at the bottom of my ranking. Born Again is great, a bit weird but solid, and Time Crash is just brilliantly written and the first multi-Doctor story we had in New Who, so it's kind of cool to look at that. This feels like an interesting choice to do, and I feel like if it wasn't for the Liberation of the Daleks thing, they wouldn't have done a SKARO thing. The CGI here looks great. A lot of people pointing that out initially. It's the big CGI shot of the special. I don't think it's anything out there or incredible or amazing. A lot of people were saying it's the best. Seeing that one VFX shot has got them so excited for the new era and how the show's going to look. I don't think it looks any better really than. I also think it's weird that it kind of cuts out there. But I don't think it's any better than what we've had in Jodie's era. It's an excellent CGI shot, but we've had excellent CGI shots as well. So let's not discredit the previous era. This looks great though. Loving this. The journey to SKARO, of course, as well. And I love the little detail as well. You can see small explosions on the SKARO surface, just to kind of show that they're at war with the Thals, the Khaleds. And that's really cool. And then we have this little set. We have Davros walking in, and this is excellent. This entire thing for me was just perfect. The surprise of seeing Julian Bleach back as Davros is incredible. It's obviously set pre-Genesis, hence why he isn't in his iconic look with the chair and the disfigurements. He is almost like his humanoid self, really, at this point. I mean, he was humanoid anyway, but as a able-bodied man. And I think it's interesting. Julian Bleach is a fantastic performer, and you know what? It's not about the look, almost. It's actually more about, again, the physicality of the role, and I think he does breathe life into Davros. If it was just some random guy, I'd be a little bit I'm not sure about this. But what I do like is that Julian Bleach is Davros. He has been for the last two major stories that Davros has appeared in all of New Who. And that voice, for me, is instantly recognisable. As soon as he started speaking, I was like, that's Julian Bleach. And I think that's great. I think it was yeah, I thought it was very good. And I thought the costumes and the set design, again, brilliant. The introduction of the Dalek or the travel machine with this sort of light change and the steam and the spinning thing. This is really cool for a Children in Need sketch. Usually the Children in Need sketches are on the TARDIS. They film it all in one and that's it, done. This was probably done the same way in terms of how it was filmed. But what I really like here is that this actually looks really cinematic. You get a good vibe of what this is here. That's a good shot. The direction there is great. The movement there is great. You get a lot from that. And yeah, the Genesis Dalek looks great on screen, as you'd come to expect. Davros, again, looks amazing, comes across amazing, and we'll talk about that in just the bit, the sort of controversy behind that. I think for this skit, we haven't seen any other examples of Davros being redesigned as of yet. The only thing we know currently is that that's the idea going forward, but in this sketch, it's pre-Genesis of the Daleks, so it actually does make sense. And we got the Dalek speaking here as well, and I can't work out I can't work out if it's Nick Briggs or not. I think I saw somewhere that it wasn't Nick Briggs, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It probably is. I can see why it wouldn't be. The Dalekanium shell looks great. The claw looks great. I like the idea of it. It feels very Dalek-y. Probably a little bit too sophisticated for that era for going by that Dalek design, but it makes sense. The one thing I kind of got turned away by with this sketch was... I'll turn the music up if it's not that loud. The one thing that turned me away from the sketch a little bit, and I'll just pull the chat so I can read what you guys are saying. I was just kind of like, I don't know, I didn't really love the I didn't love the comedy aspect of it. I think because I was expecting it to be something a bit more serious, but obviously it's a Children In Need sketch, it's not going to be super, you know, clean and tidy and thing. I just think because it's our first impression of this new era. I was also a little bit let down that we didn't see a title sequence or a new theme, because the theme has been played in the background of so much stuff. Like the on-stage stuff with Doctor Who and like the presenters before this had the new theme behind it, but you couldn't hear it in the sketch. It didn't like put it in there. The thing that pulled me out of it here was the comedy. The sort of thing with the Dalek name, I was like, ooh, this feels very, I don't know, it feels very, it was good and it works for a Children in Need sketch, but I was a bit like, oh, that's a bit of a shame. Because I just don't know, I was sat there kind of like nodding, but not really like laughing or anything, but that's just fine. Again, it's a great sketch, and it serves its purpose. They talk about the names, Davros walks off, you get some fantastic stuff in the background there. It's going to be another George killing flies stream, I think. Oh shit. No, never mind. And then we have the TARDIS come in, which I think is great. This shot here. There's a few things, and I think the best thing that we've always done with New Who, I guess people when they've been doing the VFX for it, is making the TARDIS feel real and making the effects feel tangible. What I love about this is even though that it's not a typical TARDIS dematerialization, it kind of comes in and it brushes past the Dalek. So when it's in the wall, you see the spark of when it knocks off the claw, and then you see the Dalek turn like it's been knocked. Not to mention also the massive dent in the wall, which is already there by the time we pan round. I think it's really sick, and I really like this. The wall effect here with the TARDIS kind of crashing into it kind of looks a little bit like what we're seeing in Wild Blue Yonder as well. So maybe there's going to be something wrong with the TARDIS, which is going to explain why its interior changes once again. But yeah, the Dalek turning here really sells that TARDIS moment, and I really like that. Yeah, the sparks look good, the effects look good. And then obviously we see Tennant coming out of the TARDIS. We get a little rendition of the Doctor Forever, I think. Something along those lines. I'm getting like flies just in my face at the minute, I don't know why. You get random flies in this flat, and occasionally they sort of seep through from the kitchen into the room. That's mad. So David Tennant's first appearance as the 14th Doctor properly as an actual individual new episode. So that's exciting. Also a little bit nerve-wracking. I didn't feel like I got the nostalgia out of it that I was kind of hoping for. And maybe that's because it's like a skit. I think I really just want to see... like... I don't know. I want to see the Star Beast to make my judgment on the character and all that sort of thing. But I'm very excited about that. I'm very, very excited about that. And I think it's one of those things where I just, with this, it didn't click for me as much. But I get that it's like, you know what, fair enough. Like, this is the first appearance. But the comedy sound, David Tennant, is brilliant. Like, I actually love what he does with the character. And I think he's great in this. I love that we could see the 13's console in the background as well. His enthusiasm, the actions in his face. I feel like there is a little bit of difference. I'm getting, like, even though it's still him, it does feel different to the 10th Doctor. Like, these lines don't feel very, like, 10th Doctor. The way he's acting, he's like, yeah, he's enthusiastic. But he's sort of being a bit more of a bit of an idiot, kind of like, ooh, shit. But maybe that's the regeneration stuff.
And the facial expressions, very cool. So the one show thing was interesting, actually, which kind of explained this. A lot of people talking about the one show and what that kind of meant for the character. But he's saying, oh, they don't want it to be too different. I think it's a case of it is different, but it's not going to be like ridiculously different from the 10th Doctor because it is him. And I think that's true. I think whenever an actor comes into the role of the Doctor, they bring themselves into it, whatever the writing is. Whatever the writing is, it's their performance as the Doctor, and they're putting themselves into it. This fly is getting on my head. This is annoying. And I think no matter what, Tennant is always going to have those Tennant-isms in the Doctor, because he's still doing that. But I do sense a difference. Like, it doesn't feel the same. Like, it's hard to say because I know it's still David Tennant, but I feel like maybe I'll be wrong when we watch the Star Beast, but for me, when I'm watching this, I'm like, yeah, like, there's slight differences, very slight things. And I think he's got some, like, sort of Jodie-isms in the performance. Like, the facial expressions and stuff. But yeah, no, I love it. The performance of both the actors in the scene is great. I love the fact that he's jammed into the TARDIS again, makes the scene feel very real and, like, literal. And the talk of the Dalek. I think this is a bit silly because he sort of waffles on outside the TARDIS for a good amount of time before he realises that there's a Dalek right in front of him. So it's a bit strange. But the reference to Genesis of the Daleks obviously is great. Very tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. And he's good. Tennant actually absolutely chews scenery when he's on screen as the Doctor. He's brilliant. And I'm very, very excited to see more. This is a very brief performance. And then seeing him pick up a plunger, just chuck it, not really say much, and then head back into the TARDIS and then go, like, never here before disappearing. That final shot there is really good. Very Doctor-y, very, I don't know, that bit was the bit for me where I was like, this is cool. And then Davros comes in and then, he likes the new plunger and that's the joke. It's kind of cool. I don't have any gripes with it. I think it's a great little scene. I think it was a bit sort of on the more comedic side, which I guess I wasn't expecting, but I should have anticipated anyway. So for me, it was a tiny, tiny bit disappointed in that respect, but it's fine. Like, it's not a bad thing at all. Like, it's still a great scene. Fantastic to see Julian Bleach back. But let's talk about the Davros thing. That's what everyone wants to talk about this week. So for me personally, I don't think it ruins the mythos of the character at all. I think there's a lot of elements there where it could work. The last time we saw Davros in his timeline, like the latest version of Davros we've seen was from Magician's Apprentice and Witch's Familiar, whereby he extracts regeneration energy from the Doctor, and yes, gets killed by Dalek shit, basically. But we don't see what happens to him after that. It's very possible that there's always backup plans with Davros. I mean, in Genesis of the Daleks, Davros was killed and then came back a few years later. So for me, I kind of feel like I'm content with Davros coming back without the chair and the idea of that, and having a good in-universe reason to do it. And what people seem to forget when they announce things like this is that, yes, there's a genuine reason and motivation behind it, which tends to be political or social or anything like that, and everyone's allowed their opinions on that and whether that we know. But until we see the reasoning on screen, we can't judge how it affects the show. So if Davros comes back and he's like, yep, I can stand now, it's a bit strange. And if it's not acknowledged, it's a bit strange. But if it's like, Davros made a clone, Davros rejuvenated his body, like he was planning to do, in Witch's Familiar, funnily enough. And it's one of those things where there are in-universe reasons for that. A lot of people have suggested keeping the iconography of the chair, but making it like some sort of Dalek throne, which again makes him feel more like Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, and I quite like that. So I personally don't have any gripes with it. I don't have any sort of positive or negative reaction to the news. It's like, if that's what people think is the best option, then it's right. And I know Stephen and chat, you're getting very sort of worked up here, and that makes sense because as someone who's disabled yourself, you can stand by that. It's all these sort of things. It's It's about his version of the show, though, and I think if he stands by wanting to do this with Davros, for whatever reasons there, he should be allowed to explore that in the same way of, like, this wasn't possible before, and now it is. You might argue it takes away from the mythos of the character, and it's disappointing, and also, whenever a writer in charge wants to speak for a minority group, then it sort of feels... It can come across as, positive or negative depending on your stance. Personally, I don't have an issue with it. Yeah, that's a good point, Stephen. And there's no argument to be had about it. I think, for my thoughts on it, if anyone was interested, which I don't know why anyone would be, as I said, as someone who is able-bodied, I don't have anything to throw into this argument. Personally, I don't mind if Davros stayed the same. I don't mind if Davros doesn't stay the same. I don't mind so long as that in universe, when we're watching the episode, it works as a TV episode, and whatever's being done is being done for the right reasons. And I think they seem to be doing it for the right reasons. There are very valid reasons to sort of not change it, and people might find it patronising, and I think that's absolutely valid and fair enough, and should be communicated, because that's how people in high-end or high up in television and film industries, that's how they learn. That's how they learn the balance of getting things to be appropriate, but also thing. Because there's also the idea as well that, and it is explored quite a lot, is it's not just Davros, it's the history of TV and film using disability as like an easy access for like a villain or an evil character. It's not been terrible with Doctor Who, but it's definitely happened. John Lumick, for example. But then also you go back, every Bond villain pretty much ever always has some sort of disability or deformity. No matter how far you go back, whether it's part of the character or not, it's sort of in there. Horror films for generations. You go back to like Hereditary, for example, and the young girl who in there, she has a facial disformity and disability, but it's used to make that character scary. Like her image is used as like a horror element in the film, and I think that's wrong, and I think the comparison of disability and deformity and all that sort of thing with evil necessarily, or with something scary, or with some like negative emotion, I think there has been a long history of it, whether it be Bond, whether it be horror films, whether it be TV shows like Doctor Who. There's a long history of it, and it's about getting the balance right. So whether this is now the time to do it, and whether this was the right decision to make, is up for debate. But I think you can see this as Russell looking at himself as a writer, looking at what's been written in the past, and going, well, I want to sort of learn, and I want, when he wants to bring Davros back, he wants to do it in a different way that he doesn't feel uncomfortable by writing. And I think that's absolutely fair enough. Whether that's right or not, whether that's patronising or not, whether that's the right thing, I think it's important that Russell as a writer has the freedom to decide how he interprets the characters and what he's comfortable writing. And I think that's my stance on it, is that it was a very respectful and understood explanation of why he's doing it. But it's one of those ones. And that's, for me, that's where I stand on it. Is I again, for me, it doesn't make a difference. I wouldn't be offended by that, and I'm not offended by them changing it. I will be happy with any interpretation of the character. Davros is a great character with a lot of drive, emotion, a lot of history with the Doctor. So anything like, anything with that, it just works for me. I'm happy with that, because so long as it's got a good in-universe explanation, and as long as it makes for a good story. And that's that. You write explanations for things, don't you? Because when William Hartnell had to leave Doctor Who, they wrote in regeneration for the first time, and that's important. It's like you have to. The writer wants to change something, so then they write a reason for it to change. So it doesn't feel just like a behind-the-scenes change, but it feels like an appropriate in-universe change. So yeah, for me, I don't mind. I think, as far as I'm concerned, I have no strong opinion on the matter, and again, it is not my responsibility as someone who is able-bodied to speak on this matter. Listen to people who are disabled, people who do use a wheelchair. Listen to them and how they feel about it, whether they agree with the change, whether they don't agree with the change, whether they find it patronising or important, whatever the case. Listen to those voices, not voices like myself and other people on the internet who are just, they can't speak for that community, and they can't speak for whether they're offended or not offended or whatever. I'm happy to support whatever change so long as it works in the TV show. As far as I go, then yeah, that's all I'm really cared about. I wonder how many people who made this choice were able-bodied. I'd hope some disabled people were at least consulted about it. Well, that's always the thing, isn't it? You never know. And that's what I'm kind of saying, is like, if I was a writer, then of Doctor Who, I'd want to be consulting the right people to make sure something doesn't come across in the wrong way. A lot of people probably never even considered it. I don't think I ever considered it. There was a point a few years ago where I was actually going to write and direct an actual short film regarding Davros's rise to power almost. And thinking back, I'm glad I didn't do that, because I feel like nowadays that would probably be not problematic, but a little bit difficult to justify. And I'd feel uncomfortable as a writer having done that, I guess. So even though there's nothing wrong with that, I think it would have been better to bring in a positive disabled character rather than change Davros. That's what the TV show in the West Wing did. It's an interesting point. I've personally never thought of Davros as disabled. I've just seen him as part Dalek, and now it's going to be seen that way by the decision that they made. But this is the thing, right, you have to also consider, is Davros might not look like this all the time. This is Davros pre, disfigurement, This is him pre-Genesis. We've seen Davros as a child in Magician's Apprentice and Witch's Familiar, and that was, he didn't have the chair then. So you have to understand that even if he does come back and he hasn't got the chair, what are they going to do to him and his character design to still make it feel like the same Davros? There's going to be a balance, surely. A lot of people, again, have suggested a throne or something like that. I came across this fantastic bit of fan art on Twitter, which I'll showcase on screen now. I love it. I think it's brilliant, and it gives me proper Star Wars vibes. This bit of artwork here from Mr. M. Spence, sorry. This idea of a throne in the exact same design as the chair, as a control hub, a control center. But yeah, it still works. It's still in keeping with the design of the Daleks, and it still works. So for me, that's something that I can see working perfectly fine, to be quite honest. I am perfectly content with that. But yeah, I'm interested to see what the future holds for that character, and whether we'll even see Davros again for the next few years. We might not even see Davros within Russell's era again. That's the fact of the matter. We might just not. It's now Dr. Walk. Brilliant. Yeah, because Doctor Who's never been political, mate, has it? It's never been political. It's always been the same. Doctor Who's always been like this, as it should be. Doctor Who's always had a very liberal-leaning agenda behind it. Whether you go back to the 70s, whether you're talking about the 80s, whether you're talking about the early 2000s, or whether you're talking about now. The problem is now it's more of a open discussion that people seem to throw themselves into all the time, of what's right and what's wrong and whatever. But Doctor Who has never... It's not turned into this thing. It's always been this. God, look at 2005. Ian Levine making a petition to send to the UK government to change it back is insane. And you get people like Ian Levine who just talk clinically out of their arse. A petition to send to the UK government to get the design of Davros changed in Doctor Who before he's even seen what they're going to do with it. Yeah, it's a Children In Need sketch, but it was based before Genesis. So if they bring Davros back in the future, he's not going to look like this. He probably won't look like this, and he definitely won't look like he did that we last saw him. It'll be a new design. And you want to say that's a UK government? How pathetic, come on. Davros in the sketch didn't really look scary to me. Yeah, well that's it, isn't it? You sort of have to look at him, I think look at Davros like you look at maybe Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars. This sort of old man who's kept himself alive for many hundreds or thousands of years, who is in control of one of the most powerful races in the universe. I think that's super, super important for Davros as a character. And Julian Bleach's gravitas as an actor is there, so I'm game with it, whatever form he takes. Like, he's great. I never feel sorry for Big Finish. Big Finish put out so much content that it's just getting, at some point or another, like, big things like that will end up just getting ignored. I do worry it'll go a bit too political drama-y with the themes. Like, we saw protests for Series 15. I wonder if RTD is very much thinking about the characters representing things for this Children in Need episode. Why would he choose Space Hitler? Yeah, it's true, to be honest. I do see what you mean regarding Series 15 and Series 14. I think at the end of the day, that's what Russell does best is he does write satire on political and social issues and works that into fiction. If you've seen Years and Years, that's excellent. If you've seen It's a Sin, that's also excellent. More politically, Years and Years is like fantastic. And you see, obviously, they're doing like a sort of local election thing for like the Albion Party or something for Series 14, and then you've got like protests in Series 15. But I'd rather that. I'd rather them tackle issues head on like that than do something like Praxeus, where it's like, oh, it's like there's this evil plastic that's taking over the world because it's in the ocean. Or I can't even remember the concept of that story, to be honest, but it's along those lines, and I'm like, it's like it's sort of trying to tackle the issue, but without actually tackling the issue. Let's see, sign a petition for a pseudonym. To be fair, it's not a bad point of being interested to see that in Parliament. Because honestly, I'd be interested to see them talk about that in Parliament. But the thing is, whenever Doctor Who's brought up in Parliament, it's never a good thing. Especially the way the UK government is at the minute. You're not going to get a good discussion. You're just going to have a lot of homophobic, racist, transphobic things said, and then a bunch of so, yeah. Sci-fi will and always has been, has and will always be political. I think RTD and Doctor Who have always for the most part done it well. Absolutely have. Yeah, they absolutely have. You know, one of the best examples are the ones you don't think of, you know, because they really hit hard. Like Boomtown, everyone sees as a bit of like a goofy episode, but that actually tackles like the death sentence, which is still talked about quite a bit in, you know, political, social culture. You know, we see that in countries in the Middle East, and then it's all about the ethics and the morals of putting someone to death, but also someone who is guilty, but also, you know, it's all that. And I think that's super, super interesting. It's a conversation, an honest conversation between the Doctor and a monster, and I think that's genius, you know. But people don't think about the political side of it. They just think, aha, funny teleport scene, she turned into an egg. But actually there's a lot of great political commentary in there. One of the many radio documentaries going out this week deals with the issues of politics. Interesting. I have to say, yeah, that I need to read the Tom Baker interview where he mentions Shooty and, you know, Doctor Who. It's a bit sad. I saw the photo of him and he looks like so much older now, and it's not like a bad thing. He still looks great for his age, and he's still, you know, it's amazing that he's still doing these things. It does make me feel a bit sad when I say it, and I'm like, God, he is getting older, you know. But that is just life, isn't it? Patrick Troughton once said, "There's no limit to the Doctor's sex or race." Just makes me laugh when people say Doctor Who's gone woke. Yeah, that's the thing. It's always been accepted and understood that the Doctor could like change into a woman, for example, but it was kind of just ignored by a lot of people. Like the idea of Time Lords changing gender was not only mentioned behind the scenes as early as like the 70s and 80s, but like actually being like realised as an actual idea in modern Who. Like it was first mentioned in The Doctor's Wife, that a Time Lord that the Doctor knew changed genders during regenerations. It was mentioned in Night of the Doctor in 2013, where the potions may turn him into a man or a woman. You know, Missy exists. And like all this happened in 2011, 2012, 2013, and then 2014 Missy came in. Yet still in 2017, 2018, hell, even 2021, 2022, people were still going on about the whole women doctor thing. As if it's something brand new, as if it's something that Chris Chibnall's ruined the show with. It's always been a concept, pardon me, it's always been a concept, and it's always been allowed, and it's always been like part of it, you know? Say what you want about the actual idea of it. What was this? Say what you want about the idea of it. It's sort of something that has always kind of been hinted at and teased for years. Curse of Fatal Death, 90s. In every like decade we have a reference to it, you know? A lot of people are so offended by that, but actually the whole point is that's it. I will just give a quick shout out, because I am just using his music, but Peter Miles on YouTube makes fantastic Doctor Who remixes of the themes, just different bits of music. I've worked with him many a time, but go and give him a little subscription. I use his music on these streams, and yeah, they go amazingly. He's absolutely brilliant. There's a link in my description as well, but I've put it in the chat. Go and check out his channel. Go and drop him a subscription if you haven't already. But yeah, there's some fantastic mixes on there. I think it was even mentioned in the Five Doctors of Time Lords could gender swap. There you go. This is the thing, though. You have to you hold people to the standards of like, if you go, oh well, you changed Davros, well, why didn't you change John Lumick? It's like because he's not writing a story with John Lumick in it. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure if he brought John Lumick back, he would do something with that. Or because it was a one-off like character, he's probably not gonna ever bring him back. And the likelihood is that in Russell's new era, there probably won't be any villains that are just like disabled humans, because that or disabled humanoid characters. I don't know, let's not get in... Can we not get into the whole, like, political, wokey sort of chat? Because that's never what this channel's about. I don't like to talk about it on here, because it's just really fucking annoying, and it just kind of gets attached to Doctor Who all the time. We can talk about something, and it be about, you know, being an important chat regarding the whole thing, but people coming in and going, oh, it's Dr. Woke now, and look at this, look at this. Like... oh, he should have rewritten John Lumick is not an appropriate answer. John Lumick, like, he did that, what, 17 years ago? 18 years ago? Like, he's not... He's learning as a writer and changing his approach to stuff. Whether that's offensive or patronising to anyone, like, he's trying to think about his writing and do what he's comfortable with. And I think that's absolutely fair enough. Exactly. If Time Lords could never change gender, we'd never have gotten Missy, and we'd be living in the worst timeline. You're completely right. That's right. I just don't want to. I don't want to like derail the Who Bulletin into being like. I don't want to derail the Who Bulletin into being something that it's not, which is just like a political debate about all the changes and social things about Doctor Who. My opinion on the social and political commentary in Doctor Who is, as it always has been, it is up to the writer's discretion what they do and how they do stuff. Like, sometimes it's good political stuff, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's handled well, sometimes it's not. Sometimes changes are made that people like, and some people don't. It's cool to debate that, but we have talked for about 20 minutes about the whole Davros thing. There's no answer to it. And again, like, as someone who... I don't really feel like my opinion's worth anything in that debate. So yeah. Do you believe that Ruby's Kate's daughter theory? There's that one going around. And John Hua King's character that could possibly be Kate's son. I'm not sure about that. How does Kate... When was it mentioned that Kate had children? Other than some really obscure Big Finish thing, which I am not paying attention to. But yeah, let me know about that, because that's interesting. I don't recall that being a thing. And then... yeah... I don't know, I feel like, yeah, there's a likelihood of it, but also it could just be that they're new characters. I don't know. I think Ruby's parents' situation will be super interesting. It's definitely going to be something timey-wimey. I have a feeling that there's going to be something really strange in that I look forward to. I haven't seen Thary's interview with Ruth Madeley. Good on him for getting that, though. That's sick. I didn't know he had interviewed her. Pretty cool. Oh, good for him. Good for him. Oh, we're not doing downtime as a frame of reference. I'm not having that. It's not even played by the same actress. Do we include downtime as canon? Is downtime ever referenced or talked about? I'm sorry. Nah, I can't. So she's a mother, I think, to two in Death in Heaven and Dark Water. That's interesting. Oh, that's a good point, actually. Death in Heaven, Doctor Who script. I do remember that. I feel like I would have made more of a note of that if that's what she actually said. Yeah, Kate Stewart, divorcee, mother of two, keen gardener, outstanding bridge player, also chief scientific officer, Unified Intelligence Task Force, who currently have you surrounded. So she is a mother of two. That is really cool. That just completely passed me by. I don't know why I never really thought about that one. That's interesting. Cool. Okay. That's cool. Kate has two kids. Didn't think about that. So one of them maybe... I think if anything it's going to be the guy. I don't think it will be Ruby. Because I think Ruby's parentage is going to be like a mystery. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, she's just a Lethbridge Stewart. I kind of feel that that's not the case. I kind of feel like that would be a bit redundant, and I kind of feel like that's just not going to happen. I think if it's going to be anyone, if they go, oh, one of the characters is going to be her kid, then it makes sense to be the guy. I think Ruby's parentage is a mystery, and that's the whole thing, isn't it? Are there still Zygons at unit? Presumably. But where's Osgood? What's she been up to? If Kate's parents were aliens, well, we know who Kate's dad is. And have we not seen Kate's mum as well? Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart. Oh God, he's got a few. He's got a few mentions in the spouse section. I'm not sure, you know. I don't know. I don't know, to be honest. Oh yeah, but Ruby's parents might be aliens. That's kind of what I'm thinking, is there's going to be something like that. Or it's going to be something weird like Ruby's mum is like herself, you know, or something weird like that. Some sort of... oh, kind of cool. Interesting. Is 90-ish% confirmation on this rumour either being true or false? I shan't say anything considering spoilery, so I'm not 100%. But I fairly trust what I've been told. I missed what your rumour was. After the 13th. Or did you not say it? No, I feel like Ruby... There's going to be something interesting there. If you've ever seen the Red Dwarf episode of Roborus, that's kind of what I'm thinking. It's a very niche reference, very deep cut, but basically one of the characters ends up... One of the characters who is adopted... never knew about his parents or anything like that. He basically... in deep space, millions of years into the future, has basically a baby of himself or a clone of himself or whatever, and leaves it under a table in Liverpool, which is where he was found. And it sort of loops around. He is the baby, and he's also his own dad. It's an endless chain. It's a bootstrap paradox, same as like the Capaldi episodes, Under the Lake and Before the Flood. It's a great concept, the bootstrap paradox, but. Yeah, I think they could do that with Ruby, maybe. At least I don't want it to be like, it's someone's, it's this companion from the 80s. I kind of want it to be like something sci-fi, like she is our own mum. That would be kind of cool. Or something weird like that, or our mum or parents are aliens. I just don't want like a Star Wars Rey Skywalker scenario. My name's Ruby Who. Okay, I feel like we're pretty much done. Before we sort of clock off here, again, I'll remind everyone that after this stream finishes, around about 8 o'clock, we're going to head over to Twitch and we're going to be playing Destiny of the Doctors, which is an old 90s CD-ROM game in the Wilderness Years. Please go and click on the link. Please go and give me a follow on Twitch. We'll be going there live immediately after this stream is finished, and we'll be playing that as long as I can stomach it. It looks really fun so far. I've never played it, but I've seen so much from it and heard so much from it. It's one of those infamous games that I can't believe I've managed to get working or get my hands on. So yeah, make sure you stick in for that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I want to say about Destination SKARO. Theories going forward. And I don't really have any more theories or stuff for the Starbeast. I think we've talked about it so much that I'm just kind of like excited to watch it now. I feel like I just want to sit down and watch a new episode of Doctor Who. And it's amazing that that's going to happen this week. You know, this Saturday. Doctor Who's back. And I'm so excited. Yeah. It's going to be great. And I know there's definitely going to be debates off the back of that. We've seen the reviews come out already, and a lot of the reviews are pretty positive. From what I've seen, look really interesting. And then some of them are... Well, there's a couple of mixed ones, but most of them are pretty good. You're not late at all, Valerie. We are probably going to finish up here in about 10 minutes, but after we finish on YouTube, we always head over to twitch.tv to do some video game streaming, and today we're playing Destiny of the Doctors, so you might want to tune in over there as well. So yeah, do stick around and you'll see what happens after. But yeah, how does you get Destiny of the Doctors? Emulation. There are ISOs online for any game, and there are ways and means of finding anything, but you have to just sort of set it up and download things properly and have the right tools for it. I'm not going to go through a full step-by-step guide on how to get the game running, but there are ways of doing it, and plus it's an old 90s ROM game, so there are lots of copies of it, and there's lots of... yeah. But I'm excited to see what happens. I know there was an interesting thing mentioned with the opening of the Starbeast, which may be kind of spoilery, so if you want to know nothing, then like obviously stay out. I'm not going to spoil anything about the episode itself, more just like the format of how it's going to come out. It seems like there's going to be some sort of fourth wall break towards the beginning where the Doctor and Donna, or Doctor and/or Donna, talk to the camera describing the events of what happened in Series 4, which is kind of interesting, and I'm kind of here for, not going to lie. I kind of feel like it gets you engaged very easily. So, I don't think it's like I don't know. I don't think it's like a big. That's not really a spoiler because it'll be the beginning of the episode, and it's also just like the format of it, less so the contents of the Star Beast. So that's interesting. But yeah. Cool. So what we might be doing now is I reckon we'll head over. I fancy playing a bit of Destiny of the Doctors, so we might just do that. If you're watching here, we'll be back next time talking about the Star Beast, breaking it down, talking about all that sort of thing. I hope a lot of you join us over on the Twitch channel to play Destiny of the Doctors and talk more about Doctor Who for a bit. If not, then hopefully see you all next week. We'll be streaming next week on Wednesday evening, not Tuesday evening, but it should be around the same time. So keep an eye on my Twitter, keep an eye on YouTube, keep an eye on everything, get your notifications on. One thing I might share with everyone whilst I'm here actually is I'm trying to soft launch a Discord server as a sort of promotional marketing thing for the live streams, not as a big shithole discussion place, which can be a frequent thing with Discord servers. So what I will do is I will invite people to it. You have to go through a bit of a verification process. So I'm not going to go mental with it, but what I will do is I'll get that link and I'll send it in chat. So if you fancy joining, I'll be sure to give you all the appropriate roles and stuff later on. Feel free to check there. And basically whenever a new stream goes live from the following weeks, we're going to be basically announcing it in there. So feel free to join and we'll give you all the appropriate roles very shortly. I can see a lot of you joining already, so that's great. But yeah. Fun. Okay, well, in the meantime, we'll be back next Wednesday talking about the Star Beast, giving a whole full in-depth review, so that'll be very exciting. But in the meantime, head over to the link in chat, twitch.tv/georgesheard. We're going to be playing Destiny of the Doctors right now, so I will see you all